Okay, so what we have to ask is, who is the user? Okay, so if you have different type of user, then it will be challenging for you, okay, since you have to cater different needs of user and different type of user. So therefore, I suggest you just focus in specific target user, for example 18 to 25 years old. Okay, and the next is, what are the user needs? So you have to understand them. Okay, ask them, do research. And then the last is, this is the main important thing, can VR address those needs? Because VR cannot solve all problems. So therefore, you have to find whether VR can address their needs or not. And if it is, how? So, okay, the first is, who are the users? Okay, there are three categories: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary is people who regularly using the VR system. They are used to VR. Okay, and then secondary, people providing support or developing system. So they don't regularly use VR, but they know how to use VR. They provide support for VR. And then the second is tertiary, which is people who just provide funding or space for VR. People who have money, but they don't use VR regularly as well. Okay, so these things you have to think about. But again, I think you also have to cover the last, which is novice people, people who don't use VR regularly, people who are, they are new to VR and they probably never used VR before. So think about them, because if you cater these people, you might have more impact. Okay, so after we find who are the users, then we identify the user needs. We learn from the people, we learn from the expert, we learn from the analogous setting, and finally we immerse ourselves in the context. So firstly, learn from people. So you ask your target user. How? You can do questionnaire or interview them. Just casual interview, it will be fine. Or you can run focus groups. And the last is observe people performing the target task. So these are the things that allow you to learn from your target audience. And the second is, you can learn from the experts. Okay? Experts have in-depth knowledge about topic. So therefore, you have to talk to the expert. Okay? Then you can also choose participants with domain expertise. For example, you want to develop VR for sexual, for example, VR for mental health. Then you have to talk to the counselor or psychologist. Besides those things, those people, you also have to talk with person who have mental illness, of course, and then you also have to talk with any developer who have developed the VR for mental health. Alright? So you have to talk to the experts. Next is immerse yourself in the context. So for example, if you want to develop VR for mental illness people, so you have to put yourself in that kind of position. Okay, and think whether your VR can help them or not. Okay, so this is called role playing. Or maybe you can observe the problem and ask yourself, how do you feel if you use this? Do you feel better? And take notes and capture your observations. The last is seek inspiration in analogous setting, which is like you can just go to public libraries and maybe Apple Store, maybe the museum, maybe community center around you, maybe hospital. So again, you can find inspiration in different contexts than a problem space. For example, if you want to redesign a public library, you can go to Apple Store. So you can design a modern and nice public library that many young people go there like Apple Store does. And then you can also do and think about similar scenarios in different places. So yeah, think of the analogies that connect with the challenge. Okay? Therefore, during analysis, you will go to different places, talk to different people, and learn from them. So identifying user needs. Okay, from understanding the user, look for the needs. Whether it's human emotional or the physical needs, okay? Needs that help to define your design. Needs are verbs, not nouns, guys, okay? So it's activities and desires. And the nouns is solution. For example, I need to eat. So your needs is for eating. Okay. Not other type of nouns, okay? So it should be verbs. And identify needs from the user traits you note or from contradictions between information. So disconnect between what user says and what user does. Okay? Example, fear for arachnophobia. So arachnophobia is a phobia of spiders. Okay? So this is based on true story. Mark Billinghurst's father, which is Alan, didn't seem afraid of anything. Then, before, finally he went to the heat lab to try fear for the first time. In a virtual kitchen, he saw a fear spider and screamed. So the contradiction is he's afraid of nothing, but when he sees a virtual spider, he screams. So, what is the problem? So the problem is user needs, okay, and then the verb phrase in a way, that way. How might we verb phrase? So we have to fill up this phrase to come out with our solution. So the example is Alan needs to overcome his fear of spiders in a way that is easy and painless. Right. So how might we help him overcome his fear of spiders? That's a good question. So that question might help you to design your VR. But again, you have to ask whether is VR the best solution? Because not every problem can be solved by VR. There are some ideal problems for VR, which are visual elements, 3D spatial interactions, physical manipulations, and procedural learning. So, besides these problems, they are not might ideal for VR, which are like heavy reading, text editing, many non-visual elements, need for connection with real world, and need for tactile, haptic, and olfaction feedback. Okay, this one is probably can be solved by this time because we already have many fear accessories that allow us to feel cold, feel hot, even to smell things, and to feel um, touch. So this is possible. Okay, so as you can see, like this, right? VR for architecture. Is it suitable for VR? And VR for dancing, especially for ballerina. Is it possible? And this one, oh my goodness, wine testing. What do you think? Is it possible? And the last is this one. You note down, take note. How about that? So I would say for VR, for designing, this is very possible. This might help. We have already the VR application these days, VR software which involve raycasting. User can draw, user can do sculpting, which is very, very helpful for them. Okay, to design houses, to draw. The most simple software that you can use is Tilt Brush. You can check on it. Oh, I fall in love with Tilt Brush. However, how about dancing? Well, you can do exercise with VR and dancing as well. But I think um, exercise like jogging, as long as you have the VR treadmill, it's possible. And for dancing, I think it's also much possible as long as the VR headset is wireless, and you can do hand gesture. So yeah, we can do dancing, but maybe um, not so flexible. Okay. And wine testing. Oh my god, this is so interesting. Okay. Um, my friend had done this before, but of course without VR. But well, these days we already have a feel reel which allow us to smell the things. So this is very useful for this kind of context or scenario where, for example, we wanna buy wine in Australia and we cannot go to Australia since this is pandemic. So we can use VR to taste the wine or even to smell the wine. Right. Well, normally wine is gonna be will be tasted by using also cheese. So we can also try the cheese. Right. And even Oculus has come with that kind of software already that related to food. People can try the food and even cook the food with VR with the chef. So it's everything is possible these days. And how about the last one? The meeting one? I might think, well, okay, this is good if I want to meet you guys, for example, see you, talk to me, rather than just talking like this or going through Teams or WebEx. So meeting, if we can see each other online like avatar, that will be awesome. But for taking notes, well, I don't think so. But if you can put a VR meeting and have that kind of feature, that might be helpful as well. But it won't be the main feature. Okay. What do you think, guys? Any opinion? Okay, so next we're gonna go to the next phase, which is design. This involves brainstorming, ideal storming, And you can see all these notes, okay, meetings. So for example, ideas for overcoming fear of spiders. Mm, so how to help Alan to overcome his fear of spiders? You can get ideas by watching spider videos. Exposure to real spiders. You can try the real spiders to feel how you can be benefited from your VR. Using toy spiders, that is a good idea. VR therapy and then AR spider viewing. So these things are the example. Okay? So now you know what you have to do for getting the ideas, right? So this is the example of fear for spider phobia. You can go to this link. Okay. Alright, so during design, we have this thing called elaboration and reduction, which are elaboration is opportunity seeking. So we find many opportunities how to solve the problem. And then we do the design process. Okay. Well, finally, after we got it all, we reduce some of the opportunities which are not might suitable to our purpose, to our VR application. So elaborate is generate solutions, the opportunities. But then you have to reduce because you have to decide which one that you have to go. Okay, the one that worth pursuing. You cannot go with all, of course. And then you have to repeat, elaborate and reduce again on those solutions. So these are the VR interface design sketches which you have done it, guys, for assignment 2. Okay. So why is sketching useful? You can have early ideation, of course, think through ideas, okay, force you to visualize how things come together, communicate ideas to inspire new design, for brainstorming and beginning prototyping. So VR design considerations. So use UI best practice. So you have to know the UI in VR. Okay? Use interface metaphor or affordance. Decide best metaphor for VR applications. Design for human, of course. Design for different user groups, if you have different user groups. And design for the whole user. Of course, you have to think about their social, cultural, emotional, physical, and cognitive. Okay guys, so we have to use UI best practices. Okay, actually general UI design principles can be applied to VR, which is Snyderman's UI guidelines from 1998. Besides, you guys also can provide interface feedback, which are the mix of reactive, instrumental, and operational feedback, which can maintain spatial and temporal correspondence. And the next is use constraints. Specify relations between variables. Okay, for example, physical constraints that reduce freedom of movement. That's really applicable for VR. Somehow when we want to move, we don't know that we have chairs, table in front of us. So make sure that you guys set up the set up a good VR space that make user free of doing anything that they want. And the last is support two-handed control, which are use Gaillard's framework of bimanual manipulations, which are dominant versus non-dominant hands. And next is use interface metaphor. Okay, so if you know desktop metaphor, spreadsheet calculator, I think we have talked about it in last 2 weeks lecture, when you can drag the empty folder to other folder. Okay, So that is kind of the interface metaphor. You can also do it in VR. And the benefit is makes learning interface easier and more accessible. So users understand underlying conceptual model. Okay, so these are the typical VR interface metaphor, guys. This is done in mostly VR headset like Oculus and HTC 5, which are direct manipulation. You can reach out and directly grab objects. Ray casting, select objects through ray from head or head. This one you can do with Google Cardboard. Vehicle movement, so you move through VR environment through vehicle movement. Okay, handlebar metaphor. Example. A handlebar metaphor for virtual object manipulation with mid-air interaction. So this is an example of a study case for doing VR with handlebar metaphor. You can watch it here. Basically, we have to ask first, how are these used? Okay, the chair, the scissor, and the mug. Affordance. Based on Norman, 1988, affordance provides strong clues to the operations of things. So when we see it, we already know how to use it. But sometimes what we perceive versus actual affordance are different. Okay, so perceived affordance should match actual affordance. Because there are sometimes false and correct affordance. Okay, what I can say is like this. Physical affordance, when you look and feel of real object, like this cup, for example, we know the shape, the texture, the color, and the weight. But how about when we do it in VR or virtual affordance? So it's gonna be different, right? So affordance in VR, so if you have played Job Simulator, I have played it before many times and I love it. So um, the things when we touch, for example, this bread, it's kinda similar when we touch it in real life. However, we have to give clues to the user how to use it, and we also have to make it same how a user use it in real life versus how they use it in VR. Okay, so it has to be the same. Like this, virtual buttons, so it can be push. So we can push this like we do it in real life. Also like this, virtual door, we can walk through it. And like this, flying like a bird. So we can fly like we see it in real life. And also this one, pick up object. We can pick up object like what we do it in real life. So normally when we pick up object, we use keypad in VR. So when we touch it, we feel that it's like in our hand. Yeah, it feels real. Alright, so why it happens? Basically, as a human, when we process information, we have perception, cognition, and ergonomics. Okay, so all these things are related. So, why we have to design for human perception? Okay, we have talked, we know already about visual, auditory, somatosensory, which are haptic, tactile, and chemical, like tasting and smelling. Because we want to have the memory works. So like working memory, it's short term. So it's only like 5 to 9 items. But if we store it in long-term memory for user, it will be stored long, and it can be triggered by associative cues. Like me, when I share you about my experience playing the Job Simulator, or maybe playing other game that when I can pick up object and hold it in my hand, so this stored in the long-term memory. So that's why we need situational awareness. Okay, model of current state of user's environment, like for wayfinding, interaction, and then also we have to help them. Okay, why situational awareness? So for example, like landmarks, we put KLCC. So we know that, oh, okay, I'm in KL, I'm in Malaysia, things like that. Besides, okay, this is for physical ergonomics, which is not so important for VR, so we're gonna skip this. And okay, this is important. Design for different user group. Okay, so design for different ages, guys. So make sure when you design for children, it's gonna be different with adults. Okay, older use have different needs than younger. That's why I told you just focus in the specific group age. Children only for children. Go with children only. But adults, you can set up maybe 30 to 40. And young adults like 80 to 25, maybe 24 to 30. So you don't have many things to cater. And prior experience with VR system. Yes, you have to ask them whether they have used VR or not before. And people with different physical characteristics. Okay. Well, we don't have to cater this, I hope so. And then the last is perceptual, cognitive, and motor abilities. Whether they can see colors, any of them have blind color, uh, problems, things like that. Okay, so make sure you know your users. Okay, next is consider the whole user needs: cognitive, emotional, and physical. Also social and cultural. Why all these are important? Let's see. Social, you don't make your user look stupid when you use your device. For example, like this one. Of course, you will make them look stupid, right? And then, cultural, you have to follow local cultural norms. For example, if you develop for Malaysian people, follow that cultural norms. Physical, can the user physically use the interface? Ask yourself. Cognitive, can the user understand how the interface works? This is really important. And emotional, how you can make them feel good and in control when they use your application. Therefore, there are UX guidelines for VR. So this is really important, guys. And ACI should cover this. Okay, the 4 cores of UX design for VR, which are make interactive and reactive interface, design for comfort and ease, use usable text and image scale, include position audio and 3D sound. So you can have a look in this for more detail. However, there are still many many sources for UX for VR. So you can see that you have to make the user comfortable and ease when they see the text in VR. Also interactive and reactive. However, there are challenges. How you can make the user safe. How you can make the things look and feel real. How you can make so users don't get simulation sickness. And how you can develop easy to use controls and menus. That's a big question. So therefore, there is Cardboard Design Lab. This is an award-winning UX design, guys, for VR. So I'm glad that they made this. We're gonna do it for next lab. We're gonna talk about it, okay? And therefore, I want you guys to install this in your phone. Cardboard Design Lab. I think it's available on Android, also in iOS. Just type Cardboard Design Lab and use Google Cardboard, or if you have VR Box, to see their guidelines how to design Google Cardboard for VR. This is really important and this is compulsory for all of you. If you want to see the demo, you can see it here. I mean, what they have in their application, but all of them are practicable, so I want you guys to see it. Next is VR Human Interface Guidelines. This is very useful if you use VR headset like Oculus. Okay, go to this website, and then this is design guidelines from 3D UI book. Okay, so these are the design guidelines from 3D UI book. Okay, so this is basically for designing 3D object. Okay, design for comfortable poses. Yep. So make sure your application allow users to be comfortable by themselves. With themselves. Design for relatively short session and encourage breaks. Yes. Use constraints, use and infant magical techniques. Consider real world tools. Oh my goodness. Okay, more VR design guidelines. Okay, in VR we have peripheral, corner focus, and peripheral. Okay, so we will focus on here, although we can still see the other side. Okay, so use real world cues when appropriate, please. So user will see to here, mostly not to here and not here, but these two will still be available. And if there is a horizon line, keep it steady. Be careful about mixing 2D GUI and 3D. Avoid rapid movement, guys. Sure, it's gonna make user sick. Avoid rapid or abrupt transitions to the world space. Keep the density of information and objects on screen low, and do not require the user to move their head or body too much. Yes, all of these are true. And you can also refer to the UX of your website. This is the website. This is really useful and important and detailed. You can have a look on many sources, okay, for VR UX design. There are videos, books, articles, slides, codes. I have been to this website and it's really useful. Okay, next we go to the next phase, which is prototyping. So how can we quickly prototype VR experience with little or no coding? Yep, this is highly necessary question. But firstly, we have to ask ourselves, why prototype? Because it's quick visual design. Capture key interactions, focus on user experience, communicate design ideas, and learn by doing or experiencing. So, from sketches to prototypes, these are the prototyping. So firstly, you have to sketch. It's an early ideation stages of design. Okay, prototypes are capturing or detailing the actual design. So this is sketches until here. You can see it's design still, and it hasn't usable yet. And then prototype. Okay, so therefore from sketch you have to go to prototype. So what are the differences? Sketch, for example, it's infinite, but prototype a 10. Suggest and describe. Okay, explore and then refine. If it's questioning, it will answer. So sketching is proposing, but prototype testing based on the sketch. Provoke for the sketching and resolve for the prototype. So it's tentative non-committal for sketching, and for prototype it's specific depiction. So the primary differences are in the intent. Typical development steps. So the first is sketching normally, and then you do a storyboard. Then UI mockups, next interaction flows, video prototypes, interactive prototypes, and final native application. So by going through going to the down, more going down, it will be increasing fidelity and interactivity. So typical prototyping tools, static or low fidelity. First is sketching. Next is user interface templates or UI template, and then storyboards or application flows. And then how about interactive? That is not static prototyping. So you can go with native coding, mobile prototyping, or wireframing tools. So these are the design prototyping tools from low fidelity to high fidelity. So for now, you guys are still in like half since you have developed your prototype. Okay, it is functional but not fully functional. It's just an interaction prototyping. So it's here. Okay. Well, you're gonna make it functional soon in the final project presentation, which is week 14. Alright, so there are some VR prototyping tools. So in VR prototyping, we can go as well with either low fidelity or high fidelity. So in low fidelity, you can sketch on paper, or you can also use Unreal Photoshop tool in InstaVR, which I have tried, but I haven't found that it's useful. Sketchbox, I have tried to use it many times, but I cannot go to the system. I don't know why. So for again, you can also use Adobe XD and also Marvel app. Marvel app is even more functional than Sketchbox. Okay, that's in my opinion. And then for high fidelity, you can go with Entity, A-Frame, which is for web based, Editor VR, and Unity. Okay, so you have created the low fidelity prototyping, and you guys will go for high fidelity, which is develop your game or your VR in Unity. So these are the sketch for VR interface, which you guys also have done it before already. This is for 360. Well, since our application is more towards experience or not only 360 picture or video, so it requires more detail sketch. So that's why we don't use this. So you can go to this website if you wanna have the example. And then this is interesting where you can actually draw 360 panoramas directly in Photoshop. So this is the software called OniWrite. This will be very beneficial if you guys like to draw. So this is the demo. And again, another one is InstaVR. Yep. I think it has some prices, so it's not free, and still it's based on picture like this. Yep. So yeah, if you wanna develop apps like based on picture, you can use this. Okay, I think this very useful if you use like for 360 picture or video. Next is Sketchbox, which is easy for VR, which I prefer Tvori. So it's called Tvori, but it's for VR headset like Oculus or HTC Vive, which is absolutely not Google Cardboard. Okay. So Tvori is much better than Sketchbox. So yep, you can have a look on the video here. Then another one is Microsoft Marquette. Okay, so this is also use Oculus or other VR headset beside Google Cardboard. This is normally for spatial prototyping. Okay. And the last is Unity Editor VR, which not many people use this anymore, which is also this is for HTC 5. Okay. You can edit the Unity VR scenes inside the VR. And this is the demo. Okay, there are still many other more prototyping tools which you can have a look here. Okay. So they are web-based for 360 or even 3D modeling tools in VR, like Tilt Brush. Right? So this is Tilt Brush, this is A-Frame, and let's go to the concept to demo example, guys. So this is the concept of NASA HoloLens for AR or VR. So the vision is to work on Mars from your office. Why not? With VR, everything is possible. So there is a story and sketches based on the vision, which led to working demo. So this is your workstation at home or at your office, and you can just step away to the Mars. This is so cool, brilliant experience. So this is inspired from Chesley Bonestell in 1940s. So the story is this. So you should write any script if you think that it's necessary for your VR experience. So these are the sketches. See, there are information here. Yep, so this is the demo. Please refer to the link here. So after the prototyping, we go to the last step, which is evaluation. So what is evaluation actually? Evaluation is concerned with gathering data about the usability of a design or product by a specified group of users for a particular activity within a specified environment or work context. So when to evaluate? So if you evaluate once the product has been developed, it's gonna be too late. Okay. So it should be evaluated during design and development, which are the pros are find and rectify problems early, and also cons is higher evaluation costs but longer development. So you can find the problems early, but of course it will have higher costs and also longer development. So these are the place where you do evaluation. Okay, during design and development phase. So there are 4 evaluation paradigms, which are the quick and dirty one, usability testing, which is use lab studies, field studies, and finally predictive evaluation. Quick and dirty one, as you expect, is quick and dirty. Quick, like as quick as you ask informal feedback from your friends or from your family, okay, to confirm whether the ideas are in line with your users' needs. So you ask your family members, for example, about your VR application, whether they like it, what's their opinion about it. And then dirty, because it's like, well, um, I mean, they can say anything and they're not experts. So that's why it's quick and dirty. So the emphasis is on the fast input to the design process rather than carefully documented findings. So you can just write anything based on their feedbacks rather than provide or writing a good report based on their feedback. So the next is usability testing, which are its recording. Okay, basically it's in a control setting like any other evaluation that I have done is okay. So I ask the users to come here, for example, in the lab. So we will do evaluation for 1 hour. You have to do this, and you have to fill up the questionnaire after that. That kind of task in a control setting. And as the user perform tasks, also you will watch them and you will record the video, okay, and also their inputs. This is important for your documentation. And then user data is used to calculate performance times, errors, and help determine system usability. The last is user satisfaction, questionnaires, and interviews, also used to get the opinions. Yes, it is very important. You will do it in your FYP too for gathering the users' feedback by using questionnaire and also usability testing. Or you can also do lab-based studies, which are you will do it in the lab, okay, used to evaluate the design or the system. And then you can also compare different design in a controlled context. So this is a controlled instrumented environment which is done based on the lab. You need to do it in the lab, okay, and you will do certain tasks in the lab. So yeah, the one of the last is field or ethnographic studies. Okay, this is done in natural settings, guys, because you wanna understand what users do naturally and how technology impacts them. It can be used to identify opportunities for new technology, determine design requirements, decide how to introduce new technology, which is related to TAM or Technology Acceptance Model, and evaluate technology in use. And the last is predictive evaluation. So, experts apply their knowledge of typical users, often guided by heuristics to predict usability problems. So you can involve theoretically based models, or a key feature of predictive evaluation is that users need not be present. It is very quick and it is not expensive. So characteristic of approaches, basically based on users. So usability testing, they will do tasks. Field studies, they will do natural, but predictive not involved. Location, usability testing, it is controlled location. Field studies, natural, and predictive is anywhere, guys. When you will do it in prototype for usability testing, because you have to present your prototype, working prototype. But for field studies early, during early times, predictive is also prototype. And the data, all of them are quantitative beside problems for predictive. Feedback, measures and errors, descriptions, and problems. Type, this is applied. Normally, we are in computer science, we will do this. I say this applied science, which is usability testing, and then naturalistic, and also expert. for predictive. So, usability testing. So, basically it's a pilot study. So, this is a small trial run of the main study. So, that's where you can identify majority of issues with your interface design. Okay, so pilot studies or usability testing can check whether the evaluation plan is viable. Also, you can conduct the procedure like interview scripts, questionnaire, experiments, and after you do the pilot study, you can find the problems before doing the main study. So therefore, pilot study is important in order for you to avoid the same mistake or the mistake during your main study. I did my pilot study during my PhD and it was great because I can find what is wrong for my project. Then next is controlled experiments. Okay, so if you want to do a controlled experiment, you should consider this: proposed hypothesis, selected subjects. You have to select your subject, which are the users. The people you want to do as your user experiment. And then measured variables that you will do in your evaluation. The method, the data collection, how you collect the data, and how you analyze the data. This is the example of controlled experiment. Next is subjects. Subjects or the participants are really important. Why? Because the choice of subjects is critical to the validity of the results of an experiment. Yep. So, your subject group should represent expected user population that in that country. For example, you develop application VR for primary school in Malaysia. Okay, so at least you have to find exact numbers based on the number of people who do primary school in Malaysia. This is actually the valid numbers if you wanna have your result of evaluation is valid. Okay, because they will represent the user population. So consider subject factors such as age, education, skills, culture, technology background. Okay, the sample size should be large enough, or 10 plus, to be statistically representative of the user population. Okay, so if you wanna do using, I forgot what's the name, but it's minimum 100 people. Yep, but I think for FYP minimum is 30. Minimum 30, yeah, to make your result is valid. Okay guys, so the hypothesis and variables. Hypothesis is actually the prediction of the experiment outcome. So you should have hypothesis when you evaluate experiment. So experiments manipulate and measure variables under controlled conditions. There are two types of variables, which are independent and dependent. Independent variables are variables that are manipulated to create different experimental conditions, such as number of items in menus, color of the icons. And dependent measure to find out the effects of changing the independent variables, such as speed of menu, speed of locating icons. Experimental methods. Okay, it is important to select the right experimental method so that the results of the experiment can be generalized. There are two experimental methods, which are between groups, which is each subject is assigned to one experimental condition, and within groups, each subject performs under all different conditions. So this is the example of between groups and within groups. Okay, between groups, like this, randomly assigned. And within groups, they all have to do the experiments. Okay. Then next is data collection and analysis. So the choice of a method is dependent on the type of data that needs to be collected and also that to be analyzed. Statistical method choice is depend on the type of collected data, guys. Okay. So like this one, qualitative is more towards like words, okay, interview questions, but that's why it's subjective, okay, like observations, interview, okay. So the result normally in words, it's more rich than objectification that is in numbers, okay, like time, accuracy, errors, but basically it's about numbers. Okay, for example, this one, VR navigation using head tilt. So the problem is navigation in mobile VR difficult due to limited input options. Okay, so the solution, use head tilt to provide simulated joystick input. So these are the implementation, which is you can calculate the head tilt angle, difference between vertical head factor and gravity factor. Once head tilt is greater than threshold, move forward. However, using head tilt alone prevents looking around. Right. So this is the demo. So how to do it? User study. Goal is to compare head tilt input to joystick input for navigation mobile VR. Okay, so these are the conditions. Measures quantitative, performance time, number of obstacles hit. What about the qualitative? Simulator sickness or SSQ and user preferences. So experiment design, minimum 25 subjects with 6 female and 19 female. So they choose within subject design, which is all subject do all condition. Okay, experience conditions in counterbalance order. So for each condition, training, then navigate through 5 virtual corridors. At the end of condition, take SSQ survey. Rate condition on Likert scale for efficiency, accuracy, and etc. After all conditions, interview subjects for more feedback. That is the qualitative part. So these are the results. Okay. You can see the performance time, obstacle hit versus SSQ sickness scores. So use one-way ANOVA test for significance between conditions. Okay. So you can use ANOVA. ANOVA is the software for analyzing the data. Alright. So the result for user preferences is this one. Okay, they choose tilt. Okay, one-way ANOVA comparing Likert scales. So significant difference between tilt and wipe tilt. Okay, we have 3 variables here. For efficiency, learnability, errors, likability, and immersion. Significant difference between tilt and joystick for learnability and immersion. So discussion. Why tilt? Perform fastest because user didn't need to walk in place. Like condition best except for immersion. Not ideal because especially when user needs to look around. How about whip tilt? Slower than tilt. More difficult to learn due to walking. But it felt more immersive. Okay? Show that head tilt could be valuable input for mobile VR. So lessons learned about experimental design. Firstly, you decide on the type of experiment, within subject or between subject. So after that, you have to well design tasks with measurable outcomes. Use both qualitative and quantitative measures. Okay? Performance plus user preferences. And have enough subjects for significant results. Use the appropriate statistic. provide subject training on tasks, and observe user behavior and interview subjects. So the conclusion is, okay, interaction design methods can be used to develop effective virtual reality interfaces. Needs analysis, right? Design after that, and then you go for prototyping, finally evaluation. For more details, you can go to Mark Billinghurst's Twitter at marknb00 and his lab, which is empathicomputing.org, or email him at mark.billinghurst@unisa.edu.au. So I have met Mark before. He is so humble, like he even shake my hand before I shake his hand. And he's like, oh my god. He's so charming and he's so kind. Even willing to review my paper, and oh, he's amazing. He's such a humble guru that everyone needs. So guys, please, if you have any chance, visit his website and probably you might get some useful informations. Anyway, so this is end of your lecture. Dr. Oka signing off, and bye. See you next week. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.